Hello, everyone. Gary Raze here with Remax Integrity and here with my friend Tim Tyler from Supreme Lending. And we're going to do the August report, which really talks about July. You're aware by now that we get the information for the month before about midway through the next month. So it's in the middle of August, but we're really going to talk about July. Okay, so I know the interest rates are going to be something that you're going to bring up here just shortly. So I'm just going to do a quick little summary of what's happened in Lane County, and then we're going to talk interest rates.
Sounds good.
All right. Did you know, by the difference between June and July had some bearing because we picked up a lot for activity. New listings were up almost 1 full percent from the month before. Pending sales were also up, which was expected. We went up about 0.5% from the month before. Closed sales, that's where things really started happening, and it's up like 13% from the month before. Why is that such a big plus? Is because remember, a lot of those transactions started 2 months prior to that. So you know what it was like in May. Everybody was excited about the real estate world again, and we're out looking and putting in bids and so on, and offers. So, but what you're really interested in, I think, is more like the average price. So the average price, I'm really going to talk about the median price, which is kind of where everybody was at. We've gone up a percent from the month before, not the year before, the month before. So things are inching up a little bit, even though I do see a lot of price reductions out there for people that were putting their homes on the market with the idea that before everything was, I just put it here and the price is going to continue up. Well, that's stopped. We've kind of leveled off, remember. So a lot of people place their homes on the market a little bit high, and now they've reduced them down to real numbers. So right now we're about $437,000 for the median price of a home here in Lane County. And it's taken us about 2.5 months now from the time that we first put it on the market until the time it closes. So you get an idea there. But what's really of interest, of course, comes from you, Tim, because there has been a little bit of movement in the interest rate.
Yeah, actually, we had one of the most dramatic movements this past week. As a matter of fact, we improved about 3/8 of a point in rate virtually in like a couple of days. But we've settled back up since then. So we're not in the 7s anymore. We're in the 6s. We're in the upper 6s.
That's good news.
That's fantastic.
I'm going to put you on the spot. We didn't rehearse this, of course. This is truly on the spot. So 3/8 of a percent is really what you talked about 0.375. So per 100,000, make it mental math time, on a $100,000 30-year mortgage, how much would that change a payment from? So we can then multiply it by 4 if it's a $400,000 home.
Sure, and we can actually do about one percentage point is roughly on 400,000. It's you're talking about $500 a month difference. So cut that $250. A couple $100 a month difference.
That's big.
Yeah,
and that's a rather sizable. That's a few more pizzas per month. So that's good news. So think about this now. We know that the home prices are just barely going up at a slower pace. Interest rates are inching their way down a little bit. We know it's not going to go down a lot, but it is going to inch its way down a little bit. I would venture to say that this is probably the best time to get after it if you're going to buy or sell. Probably now is a better time than, say, 3 months from now. Even if the interest rate goes down a little bit more, waiting for a few more months to make a decision is not always in your best interest. That's kind of how I look at it. Of course, so I could certainly be wrong, and all of a sudden the interest rate drops 3 percentage points, and we're looking like fools. But we don't think that's going to happen. So
Well, we didn't expect 3 to a point in a couple of days. That's a
that,
dramatic movement.
yes, and I understand with the economy. Again, this morning's economy report was we're still doing well,
Mhm.
and so but we're not doing as well as we thought we might be doing. Therefore, now they're thinking about doing an interest rate cut again in
Mhm.
September, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. I think the first one will be in September. What happens after that, it's really anybody's guess. I think the market is priced in, and one of the reasons why interest rates had that major fluctuation was because the market priced in 1.25 rate cuts, 1.25 point in rate cuts between now and the end of January.
Okay, and I know that they do that, even though there has not been from the government the reduction. People anticipate, and so the
From the Federal
market
Reserve, yeah,
fluctuates
right,
in that respect as well.
yeah.
So, as far as the interest rates, we think that it's going to maybe go down a little bit. That's our thoughts anyway.
Mm-hmm.
We know that prices are going to just inch up slowly, but we do know what it is at this moment. We don't know what the future holds. That's why I'm kind of a proponent of we know what it's at now. If you can afford it, do what you're going to do. So as opposed to waiting.
Yes.
I'm going to change the subject, Tim, because you're going to have some impact on this later.
Mm-hmm.
As you've heard in the news, there's going to be a change in how fees are distributed. In the past, the buyers weren't worried about the commissions that were given to the buyer's agent because that was basically taken care of by the seller's total package. It was all negotiable, but the seller was given a certain percent, and then from that percent that was paid to the listing company, then the listing company split that off into paying for the buyer's agent. Today, the new ruling, as of August 17th, things are going to change where the buyer has to do an employment contract with their buyer's agent, and that is where their fee is going to be determined. How that is paid now is not necessarily the way it has been done in the past. So what's going to happen is the buyer's agent is going to try to help the buyer as much as possible by asking for concessions from the listing agents. And so there's still going to be the same kinds of fees. It just has to be paid. Pretending, let's get the worst case scenario. Suppose that the sellers said, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent. They can pay their own darn fees, etc. You can imagine how that's going to come out of their mouth. But remember, if the buyer's agent isn't paid, then there's no representation. The buyer itself would have to come up with those fees. Now you can imagine the buyers are stressed about trying to make the down payment, trying to cover all the closing costs that are happens. So therefore, if the seller does not grant concessions to the buyer, then probably that seller's not going to be selling that house. So you need to talk to your agent as we all learn about the new processes, and but just be aware that now all the news that you're hearing from the news companies not completely accurate. You're still going to have to we have to negotiate those fees in some fashion, and usually we try to ask the listing agent or the listing owner of the home to contribute to this. So more about that as we all learn more definitive answers to our questions. So anyway, I know you're going to be hearing about that in the news, but it's not exactly as it sounds. It's not like buyers are going to be able to purchase without paying a fee or without asking for a fee. And the sellers, it's not like, oh, now I can just keep my part of it and I don't have to pay for the buyer's side. So there's going to be some negotiations coming together with that. Now, if you're as confused as a lot of us are, stay tuned. We'll have more definitive answers once this change happens in August 17th. So how's that for confusing there, Tim?
Big changes.
Many changes coming up. So
Mhm.
just remember, it shouldn't really affect the buyers as long as they can ask for concessions from the seller. And as long as that
Mhm.
all happens, then it all works out, and we can continue on with
Sure.
getting our dreams taken care of, whether that's buying or selling. We can continue on in a pace that is working for you.
Yeah.
Any great words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, just like all changes, it's going to be. It'll take a little while to get used to it and acclimated to the new changes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as the lending aspect of it, there's still some room usually in the appraisal. So if there's a negotiation, the price needs to go up for the seller to pay the commission. There may be some room in the appraised value to support that increase in price, but that's not a definite.
Well, the thing that I want to nail down is the fact that as a lender, your company adjusts to the fact that there will be some continuing negotiations back and forth between buyer and seller, of which you guys are going to become part of.
Certainly.
And have made some knowledge ahead of time that how you're going to work that scenario. So in other words, if you send out, buyer is pre-approved for 427,000, we know that number may have to be adjusted slightly as this comes about, this change. So
certainly.
That's kind of where we're at. And again, I hope we didn't confuse you too badly, but I know that you're going to hear a lot of things in the news in the next 2 weeks about, buyers are having to pay. Well, it's not completely accurate. So just don't panic and keep going towards your goals of either buying or selling. So till next month, Gary Raze and
Tim Tyler.
Talk to you soon. Take care.